match pennies, and Jay wants to have different sides of the bench. So if I said her penny to heads, Jay's just going to look at it and set her penny. So no matter what happens in any sub-imperfect Nash equilibrium, the first mover is just going to get negative. So here's a first mover disadvantage.
And the centipede game also had a first mover disadvantage, right?
Well, no, because if we go back here, compare it to the we were comparing it to the sub-game perfect Nash equilibrium of the centipede game, which is both, you don't have any, you don't allow a player to get into the full stretch. This is a little bit weird, because we're taking a dynamic game and we're making it even more dynamic.
Okay, but
so I don't want to
if you change this so that J commits first and then I chooses, right? Then you would end up, okay, I can't tell, but either the 6.4 1.6 node or the 25.6 6.4 node.
But look, it's either of those are going to be better than 24.
I mean, agreed, but then, like, if you compare the two SPNE from I commits first versus J commits first, then whoever moves second
I see.
is at an advantage.
I see what you're saying. So you're taking the two different Stackelberg games.
Right.
One is where one player moves first, and the other one is where the other player moves first.
Right.
What I was doing is
comparing it to the
game where they move simultaneously. And that's generally what we say when we say first or second mover advantage.
Oh, okay.
But that's a perfectly plausible notion to consider as well. You're just doing something a little bit different, you know. So sometimes, in the matching pennies game, you want to move second, right? So you know, and it's fairly. No matter what, you want to move second, right? So. So in general, just to clarify, so we're using the same notation. When I say first mover advantage, I'm saying that in the Stackelberg game, in which one of the players moves first, equilibrium payoff that she gets in that game is higher than in the game where they move simultaneously. But that's what I mean by first mover advantage. So don't worry, I'm not going to touch it. Stackelberg. Okay, this is the only time I'll off in the slides. This is a little bit more natural. Taking the matching pennies game and sequencing it. Okay? Now, general exercise that I want you to consider is take the different 2x2 games. We had 5 different 2x2 games. We just did matching pennies and study what happens when we allow one player to move first. Okay? Who's advantaged, who's disadvantaged? Okay? Well, I'm going to give you a lot of punchlines here, but think through it carefully. If commitment implies a P&E, or the simultaneous game is selected, right, among multiple P&E, then there's a first mover advantage. Okay? So a really good example is like this. Right? This is Battle of the Sexes. Right? Basically, the first mover gets to pick what game they do. They'll go to the same game, and they'll go to the game that's preferred. Okay? So she's able to select an equilibrium that's best for her. Because she knows the other player is just going to play her best response, which is going to induce a Nash equilibrium. Okay? But as we saw in Carnot-Stackelberg example, in general, there's no guarantee that the first mover advantage will want to select an equilibrium of the simultaneous. She could actually do that. Okay? So that's also what happens. Okay? If there's a unique pure strategy Nash equilibrium, then the first mover is never disadvantaged, right? Which is in Carnot, but both players can be indifferent. Prisoner's dilemma. Okay? Prisoner's dilemma, the best response of either player is to tell. Right? If I move first, I know that the other individual is going to tell, so I'm just going to tell. There's really actually that in the prisoner's dilemma, the outcome of the Stackelberg game and the simultaneous medium. So it really just depends on it depends on the game. If there are non-degenerate and mixed strategy Nash equilibrium, like matching things, then there may be a first mover disadvantage, but not always. Right? In coordination game, there's an equilibrium where they both mix, right? But the first mover is going to be able to avoid that. We showed in the coordination game. It's true in the coordination game, and it's also true in Battle of the Sexes, that the mixed strategy equilibrium, the non-degenerate mixed strategy equilibrium, is strictly worse off for both. Right? Both are worse off because of these really inefficient outcomes that happen. If you turn it into a Staffelberg game, the first mover is going to be able to avoid the mixed strategy Nash equilibrium and just select what pure strategy Nash equilibrium. Okay. So in this example, in one sense, the first mover has an advantage, chooses the better equilibrium. But in another sense, the second mover might be happy because it could avoid the mixed strategy Nash, which is even worse than the least preferred pure. Questions? So you might get questions like that. Here's a game. Now consider that we solve for the set of mixed strategy Nash equilibrium. Now consider the Staffelberg version in which one of the players moves first. Okay. Find the set of sub-imperfect Nash equilibrium of that game. Now I'll start comparing the equilibrium payoff between those two. Who does better off? Who does worse off? Is there a first mover advantage or not? These are questions. On to bargaining. We're going to be able to get into it, but not finish it up. So I'll do a review on Monday, but at least Monday, Tuesday. By the end of Monday, you'll be able to finish with the homework. Okay? So in order to get into multilateral bargaining, we're going to take a step back and think of a much more simple game, which is a famous game which we call the ultimatum game. Okay? This is highly studied, especially in experimental engineering. Here's the story. The first mover, I, has $1. You can split it between herself and a second mover, J. All right, so she splits it. Let's say, for example, I said, I'm going to take 40 cents and you take 60 cents. This is a very generous offer. Right? The second mover sees that, okay, I can accept that split and then and execute that split. I get 60 cents. Or I can reject, and in that event, we both get that. Okay? So I first chooses a split, X goes to I. Then J moves and chooses whether or not that's an acceptable split. That's an important one. Two players, there's a set of histories, we win the game, I chooses, and then I responds. Or J responds, accepts or rejects. Okay? So simple strategy set here. For I, J, her strategy is, remember, a history-dependent accept or reject. So it's the set of all reply functions which map from an offer that I chooses to one element either accept. Right? So it's a rich thing. It's a function mapping from offers to what she wants to do in response. So some offers she might accept, for other offers she might. Okay, we'll call this the function. We'll see it again on the other side. So what's the SB of this game? Let's use backward induction. Okay. Well, looking at these payoffs here, J, well, if X is between 0 and 1, that's the split. J is never going to get a negative payoff. If she rejects, she gets a 0. So in an SBNE, J always accepts. Okay. The ultimatum. We don't see this in the laboratory. Actually, there's a focal point at 50 cents. Responders tend to accept anything more than 50 cents to them. and are much more likely to reject if it drops. So there's a kind of a focal point around a fair split. So this is another example where SPG just doesn't hold true in the laboratory. Social preferences can explain that configuration. But here, let's just study this case. Okay. These aren't social, these aren't other regard. These players do not have regard for the other player. Okay? But in the PNE, they include the incredible threats, right? So for example, just what I described, not due to social preferences, this is just an incredible threat. I'm going to reject anything that leaves me less than one half, but accept anything else. That's going to be my strategy as player J. Not saying something imperfect, but still a strategy. Given that strategy, player I will then split it half. We'll choose the smallest split to player J such that J will accept. Okay. So in order to really go on to multilateral bargaining, you need to feel comfortable with this group. We're going to then extend it a little bit, which is going to take one step closer to multilateral bargaining. Okay. Any questions with the ultimatum game? Okay. Now I've extended it. Okay. So now it's like the ultimatum game, but now J, after J rejects, J can then make a counter. Okay. And then once J makes that counter offer Y is still the share that goes to I. So it just be consistent. So J gets one minus one, just like in the first stage. Okay. If J chooses a share to player I of Y, right, then I can accept it. So it's an ultimatum game followed by another ultimatum game if J rejects the first one. Okay. So how do we solve this? How do we solve for the subimperfect Nash equilibrium in this game? Backward induction. Well, we already know how to solve the ultimatum game, so that's what we're going to have. Okay. Now what I've done is I've changed the payouts a little bit. So if there's a delay, we're going to call this a delay, if J rejects it, which invokes the second ultimatum game, the splits are discounted. Y is again choosing between 0 and 1, but there's some discounting. So these J's are just some fractions that tells you how the players discount their share of the pie if they realize that pie later on. Okay, but this is still an ultimatum game. Okay, we can look at this. Here, I is going to accept anything. I never gets anything negative. Right? So she accepts everything. So in the subgame Nash equilibrium of the subgame, after J rejects, what will J get? She'll get exactly delta J, because she accepts phi is equal to 0. Give I nothing, then J gets delta J. And we're going to incorporate that into what I wants to do in the game, knowing that J can always reject and secure herself delta J in a subimperfect Nash equilibrium. The continuation game. So let's figure it out. Okay. I've given you the strategies and the action sets. Not so much. That's the completeness. Here I want to just point out for I. So this is her choice of action in the beginning of the game. And then here, this is to be precise about the strategy of I, right? It's not only what she chooses in the beginning of the game, the strategy has to tell us what she chooses in the beginning of the game, it's also a response, right, to whatever J does. This R, remember, has J's counteroffer Y in it, right? It's a response to any offer. But we also have to cross it with whatever happened in the beginning of the game, right? Let's say that even though her strategy is to offer J some number of 0.4 in the beginning of the game, but let's say for some reason something else happened and she offered 0.2. It's still a history we need to think about, right? Even though it's a block equilibrium history. Right? The strategy still has to adapt. Right? But we're going to actually, in the end, get rid of this, and you can call that a stationary strategy. So it's just basically saying, no matter how we got to this point, whatever happened with I's first offer, what we're really interested in is a strategy for I here that only takes into account J's offer. Okay, so we're going to reduce this. So instead of having another cross 0, 1, this is just what she does at the beginning of the game, and then how she responds to counter offers, regardless of what happened. This is a more intuitive and reduced strategy. We're going to also okay, so yeah, we're ready to solve it. Here it is here. Okay. So again, we solved it. We knew that I can secure herself, J can secure herself delta J by offering 0. So backward induction, I will accept y is equal to 0. So indeed, J will want to set y equal to 0. That's going to be her surveying perfect strategy. Therefore, J will reject any x in the beginning of the game such that the share that she gets is less than what she could get if she were to just reject and get that. It's going to be optimal. She knows she can get that. This is going to pin what x is going to be, the outside being perfect Nash equilibrium x, in this extended game. So we know that, well, if J rejects any of these, any x that satisfy this inequality, that means that she's going to accept anything with the weak reverse inequality. Right? And so what I is going to do is set x so that there's that equality. Just give J enough that she's willing to accept. Right? So set that to equality. This is going to be the optimal offer, given that J can reject them. So we see the delta J factor. What is delta J? It's the discounting of this payoff, right? Delta J, the farther delta J is, the closer delta J is to 1, the more patient J is. It doesn't discount very much. So delta J is very small, it's closer to 0, she discounts. There's a big cost to her. And here, the more patient she is, set delta J to 1, x, what happens to x star? Goes to 0. If I is playing against a very patient J, essentially she has to give her all of the pie at the beginning of the game in order for J to accept. She's playing against a very impatient J, this is 0, then I can secure most of the pie if J is 0. So it's kind of weird that I's delta doesn't factor in. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to extend it even farther. Actually allow for potentially an infinite number of counter offers, acceptance and rejection. Then delta I will okay? So this is kind of rolling out the alternating offer part. 1982, Ariel Rubinstein wrote a very seminal paper. He was the first one to write, how do you even think about non-cooperative bargaining? There's this environment where I make an offer, you can accept or reject, and you can make a counter offer, and so on and so forth. He was the first one to show how to even think about it, and how do we solve for something like Nash equilibrium. It's an infinite horizon game in the end. Here it is. Okay? But there's still gonna the kind of the ideas that we were developing in the 2-stage ultimatum game, where remember player I was indifferent. She chose an X star such that J is just indifferent between accepting and rejecting. that's gonna carry over. The same logic is gonna carry over to the different players. We're gonna be looking for offers, equilibrium offers, so the imperfect hash equilibrium offers that are gonna leave the other player just in different agreements. Delaying acceptance, agreement, another stage. As soon as there's agreement, the game ends. We're happy to go home with our children. But the more disagreement, the smaller the pie, because of these differences. Right? You start to discount by more and more difference. Any ideas or thoughts or concerns with the setting? Probably have enough time to go over that. Well, no, I don't, but I will discuss two principles that are going to just allow us to solve this. So, one deviation property. Okay, so in this, you have the intuition at this point, all the tools to really understand what the one deviation property is doing. So no player can increase her payoff by changing her action at the start of the game of any subgame in which she is the first mover. Okay? Given the other players, strategies and the rest of her own strategy. Okay? So we're just having one player, think about one player at a node at which she is called upon to play in some extensive form game. We're changing her behavioral strategy, but keeping all the other behavioral strategies fixed, including her own and other methods. And we're asking the question, can that player profitably deviate by changing her behavioral strategy in some way? Again, we're going to look at it. Turns out that it's true in finite horizon games, that's going to be true in bargaining, infinite horizon bargaining game, that as long as no player has a one deviation, profitable deviation, that's gonna imply subgame perfection. In fact, it's equivalent. So anytime we have a strategy profile such that no player has a one profitable deviation, that's gonna give us a subgame perfection. This really characterizes SPM in extensive games. Okay? So here's the bargaining version. In our infinite horizon bargaining game, again, we can just ensure that no player has an incentive to deviate at any node which is called upon to play, only fixed everybody else's action. This property is going to allow us to solve for the difference condition. Right? In order for the offers to be optimal, we're going to just make each responder indifferent at that stage of the game. Right? We're going to try to secure as much as the pie as you can, but also ensure that the other players just willing to accept. Okay, and that's going to be the essential condition that's going to pin down the shares. 1 minute. And I'm going to end here. And I'll just let me know if you have any questions. We'll go over, I think at this point you can probably solve for the infinite horizon bargaining game with the intuition you have over the weekend without looking at any more slides, but we go over it on the